It's one of those things too. I read something, not everyone is deserving of your story or worth it or worth your time.
Kelly Clarkson once had it all. She was America's sweetheart. She had the powerhouse voice, the relatable charm, and the fairy tale romance with Brandon Blackstock. But behind those bright lights and big smiles, there was a storm brewing. There were rumors of a divorce that involved millions of dollars, legal secrets, and a shocking betrayal from someone she trusted the most. But Kelly Clarkson has finally cleared the air on what really happened between her and Brandon Blackstock, why she suddenly decided to pull the plug on their marriage, and the kind of man Brandon truly is. Once you find out what really happened between the two, you'll never look at Kelly Clarkson or her so-called love story the same way again. The rise of Kelly Clarkson. You know her voice, you've seen her smile. But behind the powerhouse vocals and bubbly charm lies a story that's far deeper and darker than you might think. And when she finally broke her silence on her ex-husband, Brandon Blackstock, it definitely wasn't what the world expected. But to understand why her story is so heartbreaking, you need to understand exactly who Kelly Clarkson is. Kelly Brianne Clarkson was born on April 24, 1982, in Fort Worth, Texas, and grew up in the small town of Burleson. Sadly, when she was just 6 years old, her parents got divorced, and the split left a mark on her heart that would later echo in some of her most emotional lyrics. She was the youngest of 3 kids, and after the divorce, her siblings went to live with different family members. But Kelly stayed with her mom, Jean, a teacher. Life was far from easy for young Kelly. There were no music industry ties or fancy singing coaches. She was just a small-town girl with a raw voice and a dream to become something bigger. However, Kelly didn't even realize her talent until a teacher overheard her singing in 7th grade and asked her to join the school choir. And thank God she did, because that moment was the turning point, and it gave her a glimpse of what she could become. However, even after the discovery, she wasn't chasing fame. Do you know that Kelly turned down multiple full college scholarships for music because she didn't want to be in debt? She wanted to try on her own and earn on her own. So, after high school, she moved to Los Angeles with nothing but a dream and a demo. But almost immediately, everything went wrong. Kelly's attempts to launch her music career were met with multiple roadblocks. Record labels turned her down for sounding too black, and she even turned down 2 record label offers from Jive Records and Interscope Records, saying, "They would have completely pigeonholed me as a bubblegum act." I was confident enough that something better would come along. To make matters worse, her apartment burned down, and after sleeping in her car for some days, she had to move back home, where she began working multiple jobs just to survive. Most people would have quit, but not Kelly. Finally, in 2002, a friend told her about a new reality show called American Idol. Kelly wasn't interested at first because she didn't think it was her style, but eventually, she auditioned. And that one audition changed everything. The second she opened her mouth and belted out "Express Yourself" by Madonna in the Dallas auditions, everyone knew she was something special. She didn't walk in with flash or ego, just a plain outfit, a nervous smile, and a voice that was so clear and effortless it gave the judges goosebumps. Week after week, she wowed the judges. But it wasn't just her vocals that won people over, it was her vibe. Kelly was the definition of real, funny, and down-to-earth. She didn't try to be perfect or polished. She giggled, tripped over her words, and talked like someone you went to school with. She had that girl-next-door charm that made everyone feel like they already knew her. In a world full of divas and drama, Kelly was a breath of fresh air, and by the time the finale rolled around on September 4th, 2002, it was already clear that America had picked its sweetheart. Kelly sang "A Moment Like This" with tears streaming down her face, and people cried right along with her. She wasn't just the first American Idol winner, she was the perfect winner. After Idol, things moved fast. Kelly signed a record deal with RCA and released her debut single, A Moment Like This, just 2 weeks later. That song broke a 38-year Billboard record, shooting from number 52 to number 1 in just 1 week. It also went on to become the best-selling single of 2002 in the United States. And overnight, Kelly went from an ordinary girl to a chart-topping artist. But she wasn't about to be a one-hit wonder. Her debut album, Thankful, dropped in 2003 and went double platinum. Everyone was super impressed because her songs had heart and were not just manufactured pop. Then came her second album, Breakaway, and that's when Kelly Clarkson officially took over the music world. The album sold over 12 million copies worldwide and earned her 2 Grammy Awards. By 2006, Kelly Clarkson had officially become a household name. And not just in the United States, we're talking about global fame. But as her career evolved, Kelly didn't just stick to music. She tried her hand at acting, and then in 2019, she launched The Kelly Clarkson Show, and it was a mega hit. Her daytime talk show brought all her charm, humor, and heart into one place. It had it all: interviews, emotional moments, and hilarious games. But most of all, it had her. By then, Kelly Clarkson wasn't just a singer. She was a global brand. She'd sold over 25 million albums, earned multiple Grammys, coached on The Voice, and had become one of the most genuine personalities on television. But even with all the fame, money, and success, behind the scenes, her personal life was falling apart. And when she later opened up about her marriage, fans were beyond shocked. Kelly's hidden struggles. Now, here's the thing they don't tell you about fame. Most times, for every red carpet smile, there's a silent breakdown in the back seat. And while the world saw Kelly Clarkson living the dream with her Grammys, hit singles and sold-out tours, behind the scenes, she was breaking down. Because once she hit the top, the music industry wanted to change her. Let's rewind to 2007, the year Kelly dropped her third album, My December. If you really listen to it now, you'll realize it's like reading pages from a diary no one was ever meant to see. Gone were the pop rock anthems and bright hooks. Instead, she gave lyrics that were soaked in raw emotion, heartbreak, and defiance. You could almost feel in every note that she wasn't okay. Songs like Never Again and Sober didn't sugarcoat a thing. They weren't made for radio. They weren't dressed up for the charts. They were uncomfortably sad and honest. But here's the twist. Her record label absolutely hated it. Executives at RCA, including legendary mogul Clive Davis, reportedly pushed hard against releasing the album the way she wanted. They wanted her to go back to the formula, the bubbly, radio-friendly vibe she once had. But Kelly refused, and instead, she fought to keep the album exactly the way she envisioned it. She literally risked her career, her relationships in the industry, and her commercial momentum just to stay true to herself. And it cost her. The album still went platinum, but it didn't get the marketing push her previous work had. Some rumors even claimed that radio stations were told not to promote it. And this led to awkward interviews and painful rumors about Kelly being difficult, emotional, and even ungrateful. The same woman who was once hailed as America's sweetheart was now being labeled a problem just because she didn't want to fake it. But the truth was, Kelly wasn't trying to be edgy or difficult. She wasn't doing it for drama. She was actually hurting. And this album was the only place she could let it all out. In interviews years later, Kelly eventually admitted she was in one of the darkest places of her life during that time. She struggled with depression, anxiety, and the weight of constantly being told to be something she wasn't. And it wasn't just about the music. She was constantly criticized for her weight. Tabloids hounded her about her appearance. Stylists tried to put her in clothes that didn't feel like her. And publicists warned her to tone down her humor, honesty, and opinions. It was almost as if being real made her less marketable. But Kelly never gave in, and she decided to continue being herself. And while that made her life harder at times, it also made her music better. And it made her fans more loyal, because they knew she was actually real. She wasn't trying to be perfect. She openly talked about her weight, her anxiety, and the pressure to fit into the industry mold. She refused to lip sync. She refused to be photoshopped. And she reportedly called out execs who tried to control her image. She was a real woman in a sea of manufactured pop stars, and perhaps that's why she kept winning Grammys, selling out arenas, and growing her fan base. However, this lifestyle would become even more important in the years to come, when her personal life took a painful turn. You see, Kelly believed in love. She dreamed of building the family she didn't have growing up, and when Brandon Blackstock walked into her life looking charming, supportive, and like everything she'd been waiting for, she thought she'd finally found her happy ending. However, that dream would slowly turn into a nightmare, and the woman who once fought the music industry would now have to fight for her freedom. Kelly and Brandon's love story. Kelly Clarkson and Brandon Blackstock's love story initially began back in 2006, when they met at a rehearsal for the Academy of Country Music Awards. Brandon Blackstock was a music manager and the son of Narvel Blackstock, a powerful figure in country music, and also the stepson of country legend Reba McEntire. He was smart and quietly confident, and he immediately caught the attention of Kelly. In fact, in a later interview, she said, "I've only had 3 other boyfriends that I dated, and not really seriously. This guy walks by making everybody laugh. I said, I'm going to end up with him. I know it." It was literally love at first sight for Kelly, but unfortunately, it wasn't the right time. Brandon was actually married to his then-wife, Melissa Ashworth, but they eventually split in 2012. So nothing happened between them, and it all felt like a missed connection until fate spun the block. Fast forward 6 years, and they both met again. This time around, Brandon was divorced, and they were both available. They met at the Super Bowl, where Kelly performed the national anthem. At this time, Brandon's father, Nolan, was her manager, and she later confessed that she was nervous about performing because she really wanted to impress him. And it didn't take long for things to ignite. But here's the thing, their attraction wasn't just physical, it was also emotional. For a woman who had built walls around her heart for years, Brandon was the first person who made her feel completely safe. This wasn't just a crush. This was Kelly finally letting herself believe in forever. For once, she felt what she had never felt before. She loved his steadiness, his confidence, and his role as a dad. In fact, seeing him with his kids from his former marriage made her want to start her own family. And for Kelly, who'd grown up in a fractured home, that was a huge deal. She had always had that fear of becoming a wife and mother, and then turning into a version of her parents. But with Brandon, those fears started melting away, because he didn't just represent love, he represented healing. They started dating quietly in February of 2012, and by December 2012, Brandon proposed. And, of course, Kelly said yes. She announced the engagement on Twitter, saying, "I'm engaged. I wanted you all to know. The happiest night of my life was last night. I am so lucky and am with the greatest man ever." The couple tied the knot in October of 2013 in a small private ceremony in Tennessee. It wasn't some over-the-top celebrity affair. They had just close family around with no press. She later tweeted, "I'm officially Mrs. Blackstock. We got married yesterday at Blackberry Farms in Tennessee. Beautiful place ever." Kelly truly believed she had found her forever. In interviews, she kept calling Brandon her anchor, her home, and her safe space. She said being with him made her less angry and less guarded. They had their first child, named River Rose, in 2014, and they were overjoyed. Then they also welcomed another child, Remington, in 2016. And suddenly, Kelly had the family she'd always dreamed of. To the outside world, it looked like Kelly Clarkson finally had it all. A dream career, a dream marriage, and now a dream family. But here's the thing about love stories. Sometimes, the most beautiful beginnings hide the deepest cracks. And the same woman who had poured her pain into My December would eventually have even more heartbreak to sing about. But at the time, she didn't see it coming. Kelly was all in. She wasn't just in love with Brandon. She was proud of him. She brought him to the red carpets. She thanked him in award speeches. She made it clear that this was her man, her partner, and her person. She even hired him as her manager. Yes, you heard that right. Kelly trusted him not just with her heart, but with her business. That's how deep it went. And when she launched The Kelly Clarkson Show, Brandon was part of that inner circle, helping guide her career into daytime television. From the outside, it looked like a power couple in motion. But behind those smiles, things were shifting, slowly and quietly. While Kelly kept projecting that girl-next-door warmth, fans started to notice little things. The fewer pictures together, the subtle changes in her interviews, and a new edge in her lyrics. The woman who had once gushed about her husband at every opportunity was starting to go silent. What exactly happened, and how did the man she once called her safe place become the source of some of her deepest pain? The shocking divorce and legal battle. It was the breakup no one saw coming, because on the surface, everything seemed perfect. Her music career was steady, and her family life looked like something out of a Hallmark movie. However, on June 4th, 2020, out of nowhere, news broke that Kelly Clarkson had filed for divorce from Brandon Blackstock. The reason was listed as irreconcilable differences. And this news sent shockwaves through Hollywood, the music world, and every fan who believed in their love story. Fans were stunned, and the media scrambled for answers. This wasn't just a breakup, it was literally a breakdown of a dream. In the months that followed, she addressed the devastating news carefully on The Kelly Clarkson Show. There was no name-calling, no tea spilling either, just subtle, emotional honesty. She revealed that she's usually a very open person, but in this case, she just had to be careful about what she said about the divorce because of her children. She said, "I care 100% more about my children than I do anything else on this planet. I'm willing to share my experience and, yes, it is the worst. The past few months have been horribly sad, but at the same time, I have to think, what I say has a domino effect in other people's lives." But while Kelly stayed composed in public, the courtroom told a very different story. This divorce wasn't quiet. It wasn't simple. It was a war. What started as a private heartbreak quickly turned into one of the messiest celebrity divorces in recent memory. The entire public was left stunned when they discovered that Brandon demanded over $301,000 in spousal support and an additional $135,000 in child support, summing up to nearly $500,000 every single month. It was a jaw-dropping figure, even by Hollywood standards. Kelly had been the primary earner in their marriage. Brandon had been managing her career through his family's company, Starstruck Management Group, but he wasn't the one selling albums, winning Emmys, or hosting a daily talk show. Still, he claimed that based on her income, he was entitled to continue the lifestyle he'd grown accustomed to. Eventually, the court ordered Kelly to pay temporary monthly support of $200,000 in both spousal and child support. When the news broke, let's just say the fans weren't happy. Many felt Brandon was taking advantage of Kelly. The man who once stood quietly behind the scenes was now demanding a fortune from the woman who had built her empire from scratch. One of the biggest battles in their divorce was custody. Brandon wanted the children to live with him on their Montana ranch, away from Los Angeles, where Kelly worked, filmed her show, and raised them. However, Kelly fought back, and in late 2020, the court sided with her. She was granted primary physical custody of both children. It was a huge win, but it came with a price. The legal fees were sky high. Millions were spent in back-and-forth filings, evaluations, and negotiations. And during all of this, Brandon still lived at the Montana property, which Kelly technically owned. She had paid for it, but he stayed in it and then tried to keep it. The ranch eventually became one of the most bitter points of contention in the divorce. Brandon insisted on staying there, claiming it was marital property, even after the court said it was her property. But in 2022, a final ruling gave Kelly full ownership. She had to buy him out. But it was worth it, because for Kelly, that ranch wasn't just about land. It was about closure. She even reportedly put it up for sale shortly after. And that said a lot about how she was feeling. But just when fans thought it was over and that the dust had settled, the real twist happened. In 2023, a California labor commissioner ruled that Brandon Blackstock overcharged Kelly while acting as her manager. He had reportedly booked gigs and deals he wasn't legally allowed to negotiate under California law, including work for The Voice and The Kelly Clarkson Show, and various endorsement deals. And so, the court ordered Brandon to repay Kelly the sum of $2.6 million. Not only did he take money during their marriage, and not only did he demand over $400,000 a month in support, but he was also illegally pocketing income from her deals. For Kelly, this ruling wasn't just a financial win, it was personal validation. It confirmed what she probably felt deep down. She had been taken advantage of, and now she had the legal proof to back it up. That ruling changed everything. Because after years of vague answers, emotional restraint, and protecting her kids, Kelly started to open up. Not in explosive interviews or messy tweets, but in subtle, powerful ways. She began writing songs again. And the lyrics said a lot about the betrayal, anger, healing, and hard-earned wisdom she had experienced. In interviews promoting the album, she didn't hold back. She said, "But this record is coming from a person who's really been in love and really had real loss in that lane of love, and also with children. A lot of this record, the foundation is hurt rather than just anger. It wasn't just about Brandon. It was about rediscovering herself. And when she finally started talking, the truth hit everyone hard. Kelly Clarkson breaks her silence. When Kelly released her album Chemistry in 2023, a new door was opened. It was finally time for her to speak her truth. She confessed there were a lot of red flags and bad habits in the marriage that she had failed to pay attention to. However, looking back in hindsight, she finally saw how toxic and unhealthy her marriage to Brandon truly was. The fact that this marriage was her first real love and relationship also made it quite difficult for her to come to terms with the heartbreaking reality of the marriage. She said she had lost parts of who she was during the marriage. She felt drained, and it felt like she had stopped advocating for her own happiness. But that's not all. She also confessed that she stayed too long with Brandon because she didn't want to fail at marriage. In fact, she also revealed that before making the decision to end the marriage, she went to couples therapy with him. However, she soon realized that the marriage was completely doomed. She said, "We were trying to figure it out. I desperately wanted to make this happen. But I think I knew in my heart it just wasn't going to." Another reason why they tried to stay together despite the fact that the marriage wasn't working was because both Kelly and Brandon didn't want their children to grow up with divorced parents. Kelly had experienced it growing up, and she understood just how emotionally draining it could be. And so, she decided to keep trying to make the marriage work. Once she reached her breaking point, she knew there was no going back, and that's when she finally let go. She also confessed that she did not handle the breakup as well as she wanted to. In an interview, she said, "Just to be brutally honest, I did not handle it well. I had many sessions with just my friends, where I couldn't even speak. I was crying so hard, even before separating." So what actually caused the divorce? Why did the picture-perfect love story come crumbling down? The truth, as always, isn't just one thing. It's 1,000 little things. The stress, secrets, shifting power dynamics, and one big conflict of interest. First, Brandon Blackstock wasn't just Kelly's husband. He was in charge of her bookings, her contracts, and her negotiations, all while being her spouse. And for a while, that dynamic worked. But over time, it got messy and complicated. Not only was he involved in her professional life, but he was also busy making millions off her success. But it wasn't just money or management that cracked the marriage. It was also the sheer weight of everything on Kelly's shoulders. Let's not forget what she was juggling. She was hosting a nationally syndicated daytime show and coaching on The Voice, writing and recording music, touring, being a full-time mom of 2, and holding together a marriage that was slowly falling apart. That's not just pressure. That's a mental health minefield. In multiple interviews, Kelly admitted that everything felt like too much, that she was burning out, and that she couldn't recognize herself anymore. And during that period, according to multiple insider sources, control issues between her and Brandon began to surface. At the end of the day, Kelly's marriage was a cautionary tale of blurred boundaries, ignoring red flags, and loving someone who wasn't capable of loving her in the way she needed. Despite all of this, she had to heal and move on. Some fans wondered if Kelly would ever bounce back after the heartbreak, the legal battles, and the media circus. And of course, she did. In true Kelly fashion, she didn't rush the process. She didn't slap on a smile and pretend everything was fine. She let herself feel the pain, anger, and grief. And the fans felt it too, especially in her music. Kelly also made some big life changes. She relocated from Los Angeles to New York City with her kids to have a fresh start, far from the memories that weighed her down. In her new life, she focused on what truly mattered: her children, her mental health, and her creative freedom. She started therapy. She took walks alone. She found joy in being present, and she even lost some weight. Kelly even confessed that her new relationship status feels freeing. Her words were, "Sometimes it's nice just to be alone, and just in your own world and experiencing your own bliss." For someone who always puts the feelings of others before hers, she finally got the opportunity again to put herself first and love life on her own terms. She also threw herself back into work, but with new boundaries. Her talk show, The Kelly Clarkson Show, thrived, but she made sure to keep her professional and personal life balanced. She even started joking about dating again. However, she's made it pretty clear that she's not looking for a man to complete her, because she's already whole. Today, Kelly Clarkson isn't just the girl next door who won American Idol. She's a survivor, a single mom, a Grammy-winning powerhouse, a woman who took her broken pieces and built something beautiful. She didn't just survive her divorce, she transformed through it. And honestly, she's never looked more radiant. But what do you think? Did Kelly make the right decision by filing for divorce from Brandon? Let us know in the comments section. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Kelly Clarkson's life, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting videos and untold stories.